think that I definitely treat everybody as an individual, because the same thing, with figuring out the horses, you've got to figure out your riders, right? You have to see what they need. And, I need to see where they're at and kind of meet them there and try and push them a little out of their comfort zone so that you can challenge them and get them to improve and leave the lesson feeling like they've got some homework to do, and making them feel confident. I think that confidence is a huge component that you've got to feel confident, don't you, to feel like you can
Absolutely.
go and do something, right? And and I think I'm very I try and be very positive, and I definitely work a lot on the basics, making sure that they can get the horse in front of their leg and use their legs and not always going to their hands. So I just I just have a lot of different exercises that test that.
Welcome to the Practical Horseman podcast, featuring conversations with respected riders, industry leaders, and horse care experts. The show is co-hosted by Practical Horseman editors, and our goal is to inform, educate, and inspire. I'm Julia Murphy, and this week's episode is with Practical Horseman's Trainer of the Year, Clarissa Wilmerding. Clarissa was named the 2022 Practical Horseman Trainer of the Year in recognition for her outstanding contributions to the equine industry as a trainer and coach. The Trainer of the Year award was created as a way to honor the unsung heroes of our sport, trainers who work tirelessly to improve the education of both riders and horses, with a special commemorative gift provided by Cosequin Joint Health Supplements. Clarissa's students nominated her for the award by first writing an essay describing why she deserved to be named Practical Horseman's Trainer of the Year. From the essays, 10 semifinalists were chosen to submit a short video highlighting their nominated trainer. In the video, one student of Clarissa's said, "I have known Clarissa for 20 years now. I started riding with her when I was 7 or 8 years old. I mean, forget Trainer of the Year. She's been the trainer of my life." Clarissa, also known as Chizzy, runs her training business, Wilmerding Equestrian, focusing on horses and riders of all abilities in Califon, New Jersey. She's also the head trainer at Jenny and Greg Morris's Hunts End Farm in Gladstone, New Jersey, and Ocala, Florida. She grew up in Mendham, New Jersey, where she fostered her love of horses through the Somerset Hills Pony Club and the Essex Foxhounds. Clarissa gained experience during 7 years in England as head groom for acclaimed British eventer Jane Holderness Rodham, who had given clinics at Wilmerding's Pony Club. Holderness Rodham won an Olympic team gold medal in eventing in 1978, won the badminton horse trials twice, in 1968 and 1978, and the Burghley horse trials in 1976. In England, Wilmerding rode in her first advanced competition, and she soon discovered a passion for breeding and producing young horses. When she returned to the States, people were coming for riding lessons in addition to bringing horses for training. Soon after, Clarissa's business took off and she dedicated herself to the job. This week's episode is brought to you by Cosequin Equine. Before we dive into the conversation, I'd like to tell you about Cosequin ASU pellets, the joint health supplement veterinarians and champions choose when performance matters. The ingredients have been shown in cell culture studies to be more effective in reducing the breakdown of cartilage than glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate alone. They even come in a tasty pellet preferred by horses and horse owners. Learn more at cosequinequine.com. Now enjoy the episode with Clarissa.
Thank you again for getting on and having this chat with me. Congratulations about being selected as Practical Horseman's Trainer of the Year.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it was such an honor to even get this award.
Yeah, it was very amazing that your students selected you for this and sent you in as a nominee. I can imagine that you feel very special that they did that.
Oh, I do. I have a very loyal group of students who are very committed, and it's fun. It's fun. We all it's a team, right? It's a
Mhm.
relationship. It's so it is fun, but I was very honored, and
So I'm going to ask you just a couple questions so that I can get to know you and then so our listeners can get to know you. And my first one is just plain and simply, how did you get interested in horses and riding to begin with?
well, I grew up on a farm. I was one of five siblings, and we had sheep and pigs and chickens, and um, there was always a pony there to ride. We had donkeys. My mom had a horse that she would ride. So I was very lucky that it was available to me. But it was always fun. It was never anything very serious. It wasn't, lessons every day and going to shows, and um, it was fun on the farm, riding bareback, trail riding. I mean, yes, we would have lessons every week, or maybe not every week, but we would have lessons. But so that we were safe. But yeah, it was always meant to be fun. And we would take care of our ponies. um
Mhm.
so a lot of it was horsemanship as well, right? It wasn't just being
Yeah, of course.
handed the pony and off you go. I think
Right.
so much of it was also grooming the pony and bathing it, and you know so it was everything.
And when in your career did you decide to become a trainer? What helped make that decision?
Well, I didn't really plan on taking that route, as being solely a trainer. I was lucky enough that through, I did sports in school and high school and college, but I was lucky enough to always be able to continue my riding. Um, and I competed a little bit. I was very involved in pony club. Um, but
Oh yeah.
uh, I which was so much fun. I'm
Hmm.
still very involved in Pony Club now. But and so when I was younger, even in Pony Club, you would teach as well. Like you would teach the younger kids. And then, I went and I got my master's in early education, and I actually taught in school for a couple of years, and I still had a horse that I would ride, and do some competing on. And then
Hmm.
I went to England for a couple years, and I did, I competed there as well. And I also, the woman that I worked for, Jane Holderness Rodham, she got me involved in teaching in some local pony clubs there in England. So I did some teaching, and I had some kids that would trailer in and come to the farm for lessons, but I was still competing to a high level there. And then when I came back to the States, I actually did some homeschooling for some friends and their kids. Um, and I actually brought a horse home from England with me that I produced. And then I stopped the homeschooling because my riding then just started to take over in my business that I started. I took in courses in on training, and started to teach people that some people just wanted to learn how to ride. Some just wanted to become safer riders. Some wanted to compete. I really would take anybody in that wanted to be taught. And again,
Right.
I started teaching with the pony club and became involved, with them that way. But I was still competing. But I did both, which is hard, right? It's hard to be focused on your riding and
Yeah.
you're competing, and have the time to give to your students. And I found that hard because I was always concerned with, oh my gosh, their dressage is at 9:37, my dressage is at 10:15. How am I gonna
Mhm.
work it so
Yeah.
that I was always very conscientious that I always wanted to be there for them, especially if they asked me. Obviously there were times that I couldn't, but there were the beginners and the amateurs that it was important that they did have somebody there to help them. So that was and then I would, like with my competing, I would try to split it up that, okay, I will go competing this week, and this weekend I will help my students. And then
Right.
my horses, I mean, right now I'm at a position that I can help them whenever and wherever, because I do not have a horse that I'm competing. So I am really available now, more than ever. But when I was competing, it was more challenging. But it just sort of it really evolved.
Yeah.
The teaching definitely started to take over as one of my horses was getting older, and then I was producing a younger horse, and it just really the teaching really did evolve. But I love it. I mean, I really do enjoy it. So I guess it was the right path to take.
And what do you think your relationship with your students is like? What like ages do you teach? Do you teach anybody, beginners, experienced? To tell us a little bit about your students.
I have a wide range of students. I teach beginners all the way through advanced riders. I teach I'll start out in pony club. I'll teach the up down kids, and some of them continue to come to me for lessons outside of pony club. But my group of students that I have, I guess the youngest now is 7 or 8, and my oldest student is probably in their 70s. And
That's amazing.
Yeah, not everybody wants to compete. Some of my students just want to feel really safe out fox hunting. I have a lot of fox hunters that come to me, and they just want to make sure that their horse is going to be schooled enough in the ring and out in the field, so that when they're out fox hunting, they can be in control, and that they're going to be safe, and they're going to be well balanced over a jump and be able to control their horse. But I do have a lot of eventers that they take their dressage, show jumping, cross country lessons. We go to local dressage shows, we go to jumper shows, and we do go to events. But then I do have, I just got back from teaching a family of 3, and the mother rides with her 12-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter. And
that's great.
I got to the lesson, and I'm like, so what are we working on today? And one of them says, I'm going to jump. And the mother's like, well, I want to start to jump again. And the son is like, I just want to do dressage. And I'm thinking, okay. So yeah, I mean, I will teach anybody that wants to learn.
You do it all. Yeah, you do it all.
Anybody that wants to learn. I mean, my background really was, in eventing. So I, with the dressage, show jumping, and cross country. And then I did go and do just pure show jumping. I had a little mare that, I took her through intermediate, and she was just such a careful jumper. I thought, you know what, I want to try the jumpers. And so I did the jumpers with her, and I loved it. And, even, training at the advanced level, you'd still, I'd have my dressage coach, and I'd go and take my dressage lessons. And I mean, I love taking lessons myself. So, continue educating myself and making sure that I stay on top of things.
And to touch on, like you said, obviously your focus is mostly eventing now, but and you said you grew up on a farm. How did you get into eventing to begin with?
I think mostly it was really through Pony Club. I mean,
Right.
it's really through Pony Club that's how we were introduced to eventing, because you'd go through your ratings and then you'd be put on a team, and so we were always, on the eventing team. Um, and I think because, we did a lot of trail riding and fox hunting, I think, I thought that the cross country was fun. So that's why I was gravitated towards the eventing.
And what has kept you doing eventing for so long? Like, what is it about eventing that you love so much? Is it the cross country, or is it something else, or all of it all together?
Um, I think I love the process of producing horses. I've never been handed a made horse. Um, I've always bought young horses and produced them myself, and I love bringing them along. I just love the process of getting to know them. They're all so different, not one horse is like the next. So it's really
Yeah, absolutely.
it's yeah, it's figuring them out and seeing what makes them tick. And I guess I really enjoy bringing them on, and you learn so much, right? I'm constantly learning. Even now, even being in it for so long, I'm working on somebody's
Yeah.
young horse right now, and she's
The
she's a
learning
little.
never stops with
It,
riding.
it really doesn't. I mean, this horse came over from Bogota, Colombia, and she came. I go to
Wow.
Ocala in the winter, and she came to me. And she's a young horse, and she needed some special attention, and I did a lot of natural horsemanship things with her. I mean, I went and
Mhm.
I have basic knowledge in that area, but I knew she needed to do that for a while. She had absolutely no boundaries, and we needed to do some groundwork with her before I mean, she was broke and she was ridden, but she needed some help that way. And so,
Yeah.
that's been really fun with her, and it's just helped tremendously with her riding. So I guess it's really, to answer your question, just the process and the relationship with the horse.
Mhm.
Getting to know their little quirks and their personalities, and bringing them on and figuring them out. They're not going to all be event horses. They're not going to all be,
Right.
maybe you had the intention that, oh my gosh, this one looks like such a talent, he's going to be a jumper, and he ends up being a dressage horse. Or so
Right.
really the process.
Mhm. And to get into your training a little bit, can you tell us what you believe your training philosophy is?
um well, I think that I definitely treat everybody as an individual, because the same thing, with figuring out the horses. You've got to figure out your riders, right? You have to see what they need, and I need to see where they're at and kind of meet them there, and try and push them um, a little out of their comfort zone, so that you can challenge them and get them to improve, and
Mhm.
leave the lesson feeling like, they've got some homework to do, and making them feel confident. I think that confidence is a huge component, um, that you've got to feel confident, don't you, to feel like you can go
Absolutely.
and do something, right? And I think I try and be very positive, I definitely work a lot on the basics, making sure that um, that they've got the basics, that they can get the horse in front of their leg and use their legs and not always going to their hands. So um, I just have a lot of different exercises that, test that.
On the topic of exercises, do you have any favorite exercises or type of work that you really think is important? And can you describe it a little bit?
Well, obviously, with teaching a variety of students at different levels, I can't, and I don't always go to one exercise, but I guess for my more intermediate riders, I love this exercise. It's basically a big turn on the forehand, but I call it the clock exercise, where the horse, I think the horse is the hand of the clock, and you're pushing them off your inside leg into your outside hand, and it just really gets the horses to move away off your inside leg, and it gets the riders to feel that outside rein. But for maybe the more novice riders, just basic transitions, getting the horses to walk to trot, trot to walk, trot to canter, canter to trot, and get them to be, bright off your leg and move off your leg, instead of finding halfway through the lesson that the horse isn't off your leg. So I do think that is one thing I always make sure is that the ponies or the horses are in front of their leg, and off their aids. I do also pay great attention to the rider's position, because that's obviously very influential in how the horses go. And I do pay attention, especially for the jumping, the quality of the canter. I work a lot at the canter, making sure it's a good, true 12-foot step, and also working within the gaits. A slow trot to a big trot, a slow canter, big canter. That the horses that they're rideable, that they're adjustable.
Right. So when you are teaching students, do you ever find that there's maybe one key thing that a lot of your students need to be working on?
Probably the one thing, it's kind of everybody's thing, right? It's everybody loves to go to their hands first, instead of working more from their seat and their legs. So that always seems to be something that I feel is a big thing that we all work on, is making sure that you're not restricting them too much with your hand and stopping them too much with your hand, right? It's a big thing to work on the rider's feel, and teaching feel is always a hard thing. That's why it's fun working with younger kids, right? They just naturally have they seem to naturally have a good feel, because they don't really have any old bad habits, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe one theme might be, the hands, trying to have softer hands, and teaching how to use one's leg and seat.
And going back a little bit to your training philosophy, this is a little related to it, but how would you describe your teaching style when you're with students?
Well, I think that I do, in the beginning of the year, I always ask my students, what their goals are for the year, so that we're kind of on the same page, and we know where we're gonna, kind of work towards. I mean, maybe they just want to be able to get out of the ring in 6 months' time and be able to ride in an open field. Maybe they want to move from beginner novice and do their first novice, or get to championships, or maybe they So I feel like I have good conversations with my students. And I bring that into, every lesson, so that, we're clear on where they want to go. Or
Right.
maybe they come to me and they're, or I'll say, well, how was it last week? Or I haven't seen you for 2 weeks. What have you been working on? And they'll, say, oh, it was a great lesson, whenever, but now I'm having trouble with this. So, we'll go and
Right.
work on what they're having trouble with, or maybe we'll be continuing to work on the lead changes, or, so I think that I like to think that I have an open dialogue with my students, and that
Mhm.
that they feel comfortable talking to me about, what they're working on, or maybe what they feel they need to work on, and maybe I'll agree that yes, we should go down that path, or but now wait a minute, you first need to be working on this before we go and work
Mhm.
on, what they think they might want to go and work
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I keep it all very real, but I do think that I'm very positive with them, and work on their confidence, and also, their horse, right? It's working on both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And going into competing a little bit, so when you are off to shows with your students, um, in this sport, of course, with horses, it's everything is unpredictable. Things don't always go to plan, and maybe we don't win as much as we might like. So how do you coach your students through maybe um an experience that they had one goal in mind, but they didn't necessarily reach it, or a similar circumstance like that?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard, right? Like, things happen. You get eliminated in the show jumping, you jump out of the dressage ring, you get, don't get past fence 5 in cross country. So again, you just, talk through it, and where did it go wrong, and go back to the drawing board. Like, it's totally fine. Like, maybe you need to go back and go back down a level, like, or let's just go back home and start practicing more ditches. So I think that it's just having a conversation and talking it through, and going back to plan B. If A didn't work, then let's go back, and maybe we need to go to more dressage shows. And it's okay to go and take a step back and go and work on that. Or what, maybe you were just having a bad day, maybe the horse was having a bad day, and it's okay. It's not the end of the
Hmm.
world. I mean, I think that having competed myself, and I've had those bad days, it's happened to me as well. So I totally, I
Yeah.
understand. I mean, sometimes I know that, I see that we work so hard on dressage, and we go in the dressage ring, and, yeah, you want it to all go and be perfect because it was so good in the warm up, and that's all we've been working on. And then it just blows apart. And it's like, oh gosh, and you can just see the disappointment. You can see the
Yeah.
disappointment, right? In their eye. They walk
Yeah.
out of the ring, and it's just like, you know what? You can't say anything. Just sometimes you just both, walk away, you walk back to the trailer, and then you can have the conversation then, or some riders I know that, what, I'm just going to walk away, and I'll be back in 15 minutes. And then,
Yeah.
we can talk about it. So it's,
Hmm.
I think, having competed myself, and listen, everything went wrong that could have gone wrong with me. So, I've experienced it. So I know exactly how they're all feeling,
Hmm.
when and if it happens to them. So,
It happens to everyone.
it happens to everybody. And you know what? At the time, we think it's the end of the world. And then,
Yeah.
you take a deep breath, you walk away from it, and And it is, it's so disappointing. You've put all this time, all this money into it, and then it all falls apart. So when it all goes well, it's so exciting.
Always. And do you, when you're at shows, riders, I think everybody deals with nerves, whether it be just a little bit or a lot. So with you're dealing with a student that gets nervous at competitions, how do you help them handle that?
I think that I try to have a plan so that, like, if I know that somebody's particularly nervous for their show jumping, then I make sure that, we've walked the course and that their warm up is going to be very similar to a warm up that we usually have at home, so that nothing changes, so that we can make it seem as normal as possible, and just feel as prepared as they possibly can.
Right.
And yeah, it's knowing the personalities, right? It's knowing that, okay, I know so and so gets really nervous in their cross country warm up. I know so and so needs more time and more help with their dressage warm up. So I think I know one person the other day, we talked about, okay, what exactly they need to do in their warm up, and then that'll just keep them focused, right? So that they really don't have
Right.
time to kind of go and think about their show
Mm-hmm.
nerves. So I think it does help making sure that they're as prepared as possible, right? And that we have a plan when we get to the show, when they're going to do the course walks, when they're going to start with their dressage warm up, so that there aren't many surprises.
And would you say that you and your students have any kind of routine before competitions to get everybody in the showing mindset and get everybody prepared?
Oh, I think everybody's different. And I now know what people need, but I also do ask them, okay, what's going to make you feel most prepared for your event on Saturday? What do you feel you need to do to feel like you're going to be 100% ready for the event, next weekend? And if they say, well, I want 3 dressage lessons, I'll be like, no, we need to do your jumping. But, I want to make sure that and, because listen, I'm not the one on the horse out there riding, right? They've got to go in there feeling 100% prepared. So I see what they feel they need, and then, I'll tailor it to that. If they are forgetting that, we had ditch problems last week, I'll do a little
Right.
happy reminder that it wouldn't be a bad idea to just do one more cross country school early this week, just to fine tune that.
So when you were coming up in your career and you had trainers, is there anything that you may have taken away from your coaches growing up that you use with your students?
Well, when I trained in England, we did a lot of hacking, with the horses. And I mean, we would obviously, school them and have the dressage days and jumping days, but we did do a lot of road work, which I think really kept the horses relaxed and happy. And there certainly was not drilling every single day. And I think that has really always stayed with me, that you do need to make sure that your horse is happy in what he's doing, and to keep him happy. So I think that is one thing that that I took just one, like many things I took away, but that was always a big
Right.
thing, was that to keep the horses happy and engaged and enjoying what they were doing.
Yeah, definitely. You want to keep their minds fresh. Just getting them out and change of scenery can totally affect, how they are in the ring. Just getting them doing something different and keeping them happy.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, they are all different, right? They're all individuals. So you've got to make sure that you read them and understand them and figure each of them out, right? And have a plan. Just because plan A works with that one, it doesn't mean it's going to work with the next one. So you've got to make sure that you can read them well.
Absolutely. Okay, and just to wrap up here, do you have anything else that you might like to add that you would like people to know about you or your teaching or your students or your business, or just anything you might like to add?
The name of my business. I remember when I was living in England and I knew that I was going to be coming home, and I was talking with a friend about, oh, what am I gonna name my business? I guess I'm gonna have to have a name. And they're like, well, how about Leg Up? And I was like, oh, that's such a good idea, because that's basically what I do want to be able to do, is to give my students a leg up, right? But thank you so much, because this is really for all of the trainers out there,
Definitely.
right? Like, it was really, really an honor to be recognized by all my students who think that I am the best. But that was
Yeah.
a great thing for Practical Horseman really to do for all the trainers out there, right? Because I know that everybody, we all do it because we enjoy it, and we love seeing our students improve, and we love seeing our students doing, accomplishing what they want to do. So, so thank you all for having it. I think it's a great idea.
Well, thank you. And you are just so deserving of it. I can tell that you're such a wonderful trainer, and it sounds like your students absolutely adore you. So congratulations again for being selected as Practical Horseman's Trainer of the Year.
Well, thank you so much. It was a fun process.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode with Clarissa Wilmerding, brought to you by Cosequin Equine. Learn more at cosequinequine.com. You can subscribe to the Practical Horseman podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. While you're there, please rate and review the show. Also, tune into our mini-sode series, The FOD Pod, which is released every other Sunday. You'll hear audio lessons from our favorite Practical Horseman On Demand clips. At Practical Horseman On Demand, you can enjoy hundreds of how-to videos and get insider access to exclusive interviews and lectures, slow-motion demonstrations, and step-by-step tutorials taught by top-level pros in the hunter, jumper, equitation, and eventing disciplines. When you tune into the FOD Pod, listen closely for a promo code for 15% off your Practical Horseman On Demand subscription. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode. I'm Julia Murphy, and you've been listening to the Practical Horseman Podcast.